Andrew Berry just held the most explosive press conference any NFL general manager has conducted in years, and what he revealed about Shadur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, and the Cleveland Browns' secret quarterback and offensive line strategy is going to change everything everyone thought they knew about this franchise's direction. Berry didn't read from prepared statements or dodge questions with corporate speak. He came out swinging with specifics, with timelines, with dollar amounts, and with admissions about organizational failures that NFL executives never make publicly. The bombshell moment came 17 minutes into the press conference when a reporter asked Berry point-blank whether the Browns have a backup plan if Shadur Sanders exercises his opt-out clause after one season. Berry's response was stunning. "We have 3 backup plans. We have a verbal agreement with a veteran quarterback who's currently on another roster and who will become available if Shedeur leaves. We have identified 2 draft prospects in next year's class we believe are franchise quarterbacks who will have positioning to draft. And we have a financial structure in place that would allow us to pursue whoever the top free agent quarterback is next offseason if we need to. So yes, we're prepared for the possibility that Shedeur is only here 1 year. But we're also doing everything in our power to make sure he never wants to leave." And then Berry revealed the offensive line secrets that explain how the Browns plan to protect whoever plays quarterback. And those secrets involve trading picks and players that nobody expected Cleveland would move. The press conference was scheduled for Friday afternoon, February 28, 2026, at the Cleveland Browns training facility in Berea, and according to sources familiar with how it came together, Andrew Berry specifically requested to do it, rather than being forced into it by media pressure or ownership demands. According to these sources, Berry has been frustrated for weeks watching the narrative around the Browns spin out of control with leaked information, anonymous sources, and speculation that often contradicts what's actually happening internally. Berry told people close to him, according to sources, that he needed to take control of the narrative by being more transparent than NFL general managers typically are, even if that transparency reveals uncomfortable truths about the organization's situation. When Berry walked into the media room, according to reporters who were present, he looked tired but determined, like someone who'd been up late preparing to say difficult things but who was committed to saying them anyway. Berry had no written statement, no PR staff member sitting beside him, and no list of approved talking points. He sat down at the podium, looked at the assembled media, and said simply, "I'm here to answer your questions honestly. All of them. Let's go." That opening, according to sources, immediately changed the atmosphere in the room from the typical adversarial press conference dynamic to something more like a genuine conversation where the GM was going to actually engage rather than deflect. The first several questions were about Shadur Sanders' situation and the recently revealed opt-out clause in his contract. Berry's responses, according to reporters present, were remarkably candid about the negotiations and the Browns' thinking. "We gave Shedeur that opt-out clause because we had to," Berry said. "After everything that's happened with this organization over the past few months, after the player revolts and the Wyatt Teller situation and all the public dysfunction, we weren't in a position to tell a top prospect to just trust us. We had to give him an escape hatch. And honestly, I think it's good for us, too. It forces us to get things right. If we don't build the kind of organization Shedeur wants to be part of, he'll leave and we'll deserve to lose him. But if we do get it right, we'll have our franchise quarterback for the next decade." When a reporter asked Berry whether he's confident the Browns can actually meet the conditions that would prevent Shedeur from opting out, Berry's answer was brutally honest in ways that NFL executives almost never are publicly. "Am I confident? No, I'm not. I'm realistic. This organization has failed at almost everything we've tried to do for the past several years. We've made terrible personnel decisions, we've enabled toxic leadership dynamics, we've wasted talent and resources. So do I have absolute confidence that we're going to suddenly get everything right in 2026? Of course not. But what I do have is a plan, a detailed, comprehensive plan that addresses every area where we failed. And I have partners in Todd Monken and Deion Sanders who are holding me accountable to executing that plan. So we have a chance. Whether we actually succeed is going to depend on execution and, honestly, on some luck."
The question that triggered Berry's most explosive revelations came from a local Cleveland reporter who asked, "Andrew, if Shedeur opts out after this season, what's your contingency plan? Are you back to square one at the most important position in sports?" And Barry's response, according to sources who were watching live, was so detailed and so strategic that it demonstrated a level of advanced planning that few people expected from an organization that seemed to be constantly reacting to crises rather than anticipating them. "We have 3 separate contingency plans depending on the circumstances of Shedeur's potential departure," Barry began. Plan A, which we're calling the Veteran Acquisition Plan, involves a quarterback who's currently on another team's roster and who we've had preliminary conversations with through back channels. I can't name him, obviously, because that would be tampering, but this player is someone who would be available next off-season, either through trade or free agency, depending on how his current situation develops. We have a verbal understanding with his representation that if he becomes available and if we need him, Cleveland would be his preferred destination. We've already discussed contract parameters. We've already outlined what his role would be. This isn't speculation. This is an actual backup plan with a real person attached to it. That revelation alone would have been significant, but Barry wasn't finished. Plan B is next year's draft plan. We've identified 2 quarterback prospects in the 2026 class who we believe have franchise potential. One is a junior who's going to declare early. The other is a senior. We've had extensive discussions with both of them and their families about what it would mean to come to Cleveland. And here's something that most people don't know. We've already started positioning ourselves to be able to draft high next year if we need to. The trades we're going to make over the next few weeks, some of the roster moves people are going to see. Part of the calculation is making sure we have the flexibility to reset at quarterback through next year's draft if Shedeur leaves.
Several reporters in the room, according to sources, audibly gasped at Barry's casual admission that the Browns are already preparing for the possibility of resetting through the draft, which is something teams never acknowledge publicly. But Barry kept going. Plan C is the free agent quarterback plan. If both the veteran acquisition and the draft options don't work out, we've structured our salary cap in a way that would give us approximately $60 million in space next offseason that we could use to pursue whoever the top free agent quarterback is. We've already done the financial modeling. We know which contracts we'd need to restructure or terminate to create that space. We know what the competitive landscape for that player would look like. We're prepared. A reporter then asked Barry about Deshaun Watson and whether he's part of any of these contingency plans. Barry's response was definitive and revealing about conversations that have apparently been happening behind the scenes. Deshaun Watson will not be on the Cleveland Browns roster after this season, Barry said flatly. That's not speculation, that's a fact. We're currently negotiating a settlement with Deshaun and his representatives that would allow us to part ways after the 2026 season in a manner that's financially manageable for both sides. The details of that settlement are confidential, but I can tell you that we've made significant progress and we expect to have an agreement finalized within the next month. Deshaun understands that this situation hasn't worked for anyone, and he's been professional and cooperative in discussions about how to resolve it in a way that lets him move on to a better situation and lets us move on from a contract that's been an albatross around our franchise. That admission that Watson will definitely be gone after this season and that settlement negotiations are already happening was itself bombshell news. But then a reporter asked Barry about the offensive line, and that's when Barry revealed the secrets that sources say will shock people when the trades actually happen. Everyone knows we need offensive line help, Barry said. What people don't know is the specific moves we're making to address it. Over the next 2 weeks, before the league year officially starts, we're executing 3 separate trades that will completely remake our offensive line. Barry then proceeded to outline in remarkable detail what those trades involved. Trade 1, we're sending our 2026 second-round pick to Philadelphia for right tackle Lane Johnson. Lane's 36 years old, but he's still playing at an elite level, and he's told us he wants to finish his career helping a young quarterback succeed. Philadelphia is willing to move him because they're getting younger, and a second-round pick for a veteran tackle is value they couldn't pass up. Trade 2, we're sending Jedrick Wills and a 2026 fourth-round pick to Las Vegas for left tackle Colton Miller. Wills hasn't developed the way we hoped, and Miller gives us an upgrade at a critical protection position for whoever our quarterback is. Trade 3, we're signing veteran guard Connor Williams, who's currently a free agent, to a 2-year deal worth $14 million. Williams missed most of last season with injury, but he's healthy now, and he's exactly the kind of experienced interior lineman we need. The specificity of Barry's announcements, naming players and draft compensation for trades that hadn't been reported anywhere, created immediate chaos in the press room, according to sources. Reporters started texting their editors and their sources, trying to confirm whether Barry was actually announcing real trades or whether this was some kind of bizarre theoretical exercise. But Barry, according to sources, made clear these weren't hypotheticals. Those 3 trades are done. We're just waiting for the league year to officially begin on March 15th to announce them formally. But I'm telling you now because I want Browns fans and Shadur Sanders and everyone else evaluating this organization to know that we're serious about building the infrastructure needed to succeed. We're not just hoping things get better, we're making specific moves with specific players to ensure they do.
A reporter then asked Barry why he was revealing all of this information publicly rather than letting it come out through normal channels or official announcements. Barry's answer, according to sources, revealed his thinking about how to rebuild credibility with a fan base and a player base that's lost faith in the organization. Because I'm tired of the secrecy and the spin and the PR bullshit that organizations hide behind, Barry said, his voice carrying frustration. This franchise has lost credibility because we've said one thing publicly and done another thing privately. We've made promises we didn't keep. We've hidden problems rather than addressing them, and that ends now. If we're going to rebuild trust, it starts with being honest about where we are, what we're doing, and what we're planning. So yes, I'm giving you information that most GMs would never disclose, because I think transparency is the only path back to credibility for this organization. The press conference continued for another 20 minutes, with Barry answering questions about everything from the Ronnie Hickman situation to the stadium move to Jimmy Haslam's role going forward. On Haslam, Barry was diplomatic but firm. Jimmy has made commitments about staying out of football operations, and I'm holding him to those commitments. If he violates them, I have legal protections in my contract that allow me to address it. But so far, he's kept his word, and I believe he understands that the best thing he can do for this franchise is let the football people make football decisions. The reaction to Barry's press conference has been absolutely massive across the NFL world. Within an hour of it ending, the 3 offensive line trades Barry announced were being confirmed by reporters who had reached out to the Eagles, Raiders, and Williams representation. The trades are real, they're happening, and Barry's decision to announce them publicly, rather than through normal channels, has generated enormous buzz about the Browns actually being aggressive and competent in addressing their needs for the first time in years. Browns fans, according to social media sentiment analysis, are cautiously optimistic about what Barry revealed. The transparency is appreciated, the offensive line moves are seen as legitimate upgrades, and the contingency planning for if Shedeur leaves demonstrates a level of strategic thinking that's been absent from the organization. But there's also deep skepticism about whether the execution will match the planning, given how many times the Browns have announced plans that failed to materialize into actual success. Other NFL teams, according to sources, are impressed by Barry's candor, but also concerned that he revealed too much strategically. According to sources, several teams are now adjusting their draft boards and free agency plans based on the information Barry disclosed about Cleveland's contingencies and their willingness to potentially reset next year if needed. According to sources, Barry's transparency helped the Browns with credibility, but potentially hurt them competitively by giving rivals information about their plans.
As of now, Friday evening, February 28, 2026, Andrew Berry has fundamentally changed the conversation around the Cleveland Browns through his decision to break silence and reveal secrets that NFL executives typically guard closely. Whether the plans he outlined actually lead to success remains to be seen, but the transparency itself represents a significant shift in how the Browns are operating, and it demonstrates Berry's belief that honesty about problems is the first step toward solving them.